Okay. Hello. Last week we began a story of Joseph and the coat of many colors. This week we're going to finish the story, but before I start reading, I want to talk a little bit about what we've already learned. Joseph and his family lived in Canaan. Joseph had 10 brothers older than him and one brother, Benjamin, younger. Joseph's father, Jacob, had made Joseph a coat of many colors, which made his older brothers jealous. Joseph was his father's favorite and much younger than the others. Joseph was special because he had dreams like his father did. One day, when Joseph went to check on his brothers, their anger grew even greater, and they tossed him in a pit, thinking he would die in there. Instead, a caravan came along, and they decided to sell Joseph to the travelers. Joseph was taken to Egypt, a faraway land, and there he was sold as a slave. Well, the person who bought him happened to be the captain of the Pharaoh's guard. The Pharaoh is the king of Egypt. Joseph was honest, hardworking, and after many years with the Pharaoh grew to trust him, and this made the other slaves jealous. They had Joseph thrown in prison, and I have a picture of him in prison. Joseph remembered that God, or I should say Joseph remembered the God that his father prayed to. And so while he was in prison, Joseph prayed to God to help him, to give him courage. Then Joseph began to help the jailer. At night, while in prison, Joseph dreamed of being back home with his father and brothers and his coat of many colors. So I'm going to begin reading about halfway through the book, and this chapter is called Pharaoh's Dream. One night, the Pharaoh had a strange dream. Could it have a meaning? He sent for the royal magician. If the dream did mean something, perhaps the royal magician could tell him. The magician listened as Pharaoh told about his dream. "I saw 7 fat cows feeding in the meadow near the river," said the Pharaoh. 7 thin cows came up out of the water and attacked the fat cows and ate them all. Then I woke up. The magician shook his head. "That is a strange dream indeed. But there is more," Pharaoh went on. "After I'd fallen asleep again, I had another dream. I saw a stalk of grain. There were 7 full, ripe ears growing on it. Then another stalk of grain with 7 thin ears, dry ears. I ate the stalk with the full ears. What can it mean?" He waited for the magician to answer, but the magician just shook his head. "They're just dreams. There is no hidden meaning." But Pharaoh was not sure. "Send for the wise men," he ordered. The wise men had studied the stars. They knew everything there was to know on earth, but they could not tell the Pharaoh what his dreams meant. "I know these dreams mean something important," Pharaoh said to his butler one day. "The magician can't tell me, the wise men can't tell me, but who would know the answer?" Then the butler remembered Joseph. For the first time since he was set free from the prison, he remembered his promise. He felt ashamed, this is the butler who was set free, that he had not kept his word, and his word had been to help set Joseph free. "I know, master," he said. "There is a young man in prison. His name is Joseph. He told me the meaning of a dream I had once. Perhaps he can tell you the meaning of your dreams." "Send for him," cried the Pharaoh. "Bring him to me at once." Joseph was sweeping the dusty floor of the prison when he heard a loud knock on the door. "Open in the name of the king." The old jailer shuffled to the door. Another new prisoner? But there was no prisoner. 2 men from the king's guard stood outside. "We have come for the prisoner Joseph. The king wants to see him at once." Joseph let his broom fall to the floor. "The king? Why should the great Pharaoh of Egypt want to see him?" Joseph hardly had time to wash and change his robes. Then the guards took him by the arms and hurried him outside. Joseph blinked his eyes in the bright sun. How wonderful to be out in the fresh air again. If only he could walk slowly through the courtyard, but the guards were in a hurry. Soon Joseph was in the palace. Two slaves opened the door heading to the king's court, and there was a great Pharaoh himself. He sat on the throne at the end of the room with his wise men all around him. Slaves were waving big fans to cool the air. The guards let go of Joseph and bowed to the Pharaoh. Then they pushed Joseph forward. He looked up into the Pharaoh's dark face. I told you the meaning of dreams. I'm sorry. I am told you know the meaning of dreams, Pharaoh said to him. Come here, Joseph, and listen to mine. Joseph stood and listened carefully. His eyes never left the Pharaoh's face. So this would be in the courtyard of the Pharaoh. When he had told the whole dream, Pharaoh looked straight into Joseph's eyes. Come, tell me, what is the answer? The answer comes from God and not from me, great king, Joseph said. It is he who has given me the power to tell the meaning of your dreams. And what does God tell you? Asked Pharaoh. The 7 fat cows mean 7 good years for the whole land, Joseph told him. The cows will be fat, the crops will be good, and it will be a time of plenty. Good, good, Pharaoh said. But there is more, Joseph said. After the 7 good years, there will be 7 years of famine. The cattle will grow thin and die, the grain will be too poor to eat, and people will starve. The king was silent for a moment. He felt Joseph was telling the truth. God had sent the dreams as a warning. Perhaps God had also sent this young man, Joseph, to save the country. There is nothing I can do to stop this famine from coming? Pharaoh asked him. You must find the wisest man in the kingdom. You must make him governor of the whole land of Egypt. During the 7 good years, he will see that all the food that is not needed is stored in great barns. Then, when the 7 bad years come, he can divide the food among the people, and no one will starve to death. It was a simple answer. The king nodded his head again. Here was a wise young man, wiser even than the royal magician and the wise men who stood around his throne. Suddenly, the king knew what he must do. To the surprise of everyone in the court, he took off his ring. He called Joseph to him. Give me your hand, Joseph, he said. Let me place my ring on your finger. It means you are to be the new governor of Egypt. You are the wisest man in my kingdom. Okay, now I'm looking for a place that we can go on without reading everything. Joseph has been in a chariot race, and the king's guard, Potiphar, was very happy, and he said, Who taught you to race like this? Well, you taught me, Captain, said Joseph. Thank you for a fine race. Many wonderful things had been happening to Joseph, but best of all, he and Potiphar were again friends. At last the slaves had admitted their lives. The captain begged Joseph to forgive him. What can I do to make it up to you? He asked. Well, there was only one thing Joseph wanted. You can be my friend. From then on, they were friends. The captain also asked his young friend's advice, too. And when they weren't working, they spent much of their time together enjoying sports. Chariot racing was their favorite. The barns will soon be finished, Joseph said. Potiphar nodded. In the distance, he could see the men building great barns where the grain would be stored. Do you really believe it, Joseph? Even in this time of plenty, is there danger of famine? Oh, yes, answered Joseph. Great danger. God has given us a warning. We must be ready when the time comes. All the people in Egypt were ordered to build barns. He told them that no feast should be held, no food should be wasted. They must save for the bad years. Even the smallest grain was to be gathered in. People grumbled. Why should we listen to the governor? It is our grain. We have worked hard in the fields. We should be able to do what we want. However, they were ready to follow Joseph's advice. The great Pharaoh trusts him. You must obey the new governor, he said. All that he is doing is for your own good. Do as he says, and the country will be saved. Some people still complained, but they did as they were told. Although Joseph grew to love this great country, he never forgot the land of Canaan, where he had been born. He always wore robes made of bright colors. They reminded him of the coat his father had given him when he was a boy. Is father still alive? Joseph wondered. Who has taught Benjamin how to shoot a bow and arrow? And the others, what are they doing? Will I ever see them? Well, the years of plenty went by. One day, when Joseph and his friend were walking in the palace yard, Potiphar looked up to the sky. The wind has changed. There's a strange feeling in the air. Joseph, too, felt the change. Suddenly, he realized what it was. The 7 good years are over. The 7 years of famine are coming. Joseph knew the people of Egypt had nothing to fear. The barns were full of food. No one in Egypt would starve. But far away in the land where Joseph had been born, people were not so lucky. In the land of Canaan, a boy stood in the doorway of his father's house. A bow and arrow lay at his feet. Benjamin was big enough now to shoot the arrow to a far target. But today Benjamin did not feel strong enough to shoot his bow and arrow. He was hungry. For weeks there had been little to eat. All the fields in the land had dried up. No crops would grow. A great famine had come. Benjamin, the soft voice of his father called to him. Jacob did not like to let Benjamin out of his sight. The boy had become as dear to him as Joseph once had been. Benjamin turned and went inside. Here I am, father, he said. Is there any news? News! What news could there be, said Jacob. Things are getting worse every day. Our barns are empty, our fields are bare, our cattle are dying. Benjamin came and sat at his father's feet to try to cheer him. Perhaps tomorrow the weather would change. Jacob shook his head. It is too late. If only he had saved some food when we had some to spare. If only we had a wise ruler like the governor of Egypt. I have heard that he told the people to store food. Now they have enough to eat and more. And that would be in Canaan. Benjamin sat up. Food to spare, he cried. Do you think they might sell us some? Let me go with my brothers and ask the governor if we may buy some grain. To Egypt? Let you go to Egypt? Oh no, my son. Jacob's eyes filled with tears as he remembered the day he had let Joseph go. His favorite son had never returned. It must not happen again. You must not leave me, he cried out, holding Benjamin close. Benjamin understood. He too remembered the day his brothers had brought back a coat stained with blood, Joseph's coat. They said that Joseph had been killed by wild animals. That was many years ago, but Benjamin had never forgotten his brother. Then let the others go, Benjamin said. Give them some money. Tell them to buy enough food to keep us from starving. Jacob looked at his son. He could see that the boy had become thin and pale. He knew they would all die unless something was done quickly. Call your brothers, Benjamin. Tell them to get ready for a long journey. 10 brothers were on their way to Egypt. Jacob watched them until they were out of sight, just as he had watched Joseph leave years ago. Then he turned back and went sadly into the house, looking old and lonely. There was no one left now except for Benjamin. Each of the brothers had a donkey with him. Over each donkey's back was an empty sack. Let's hope that our load will be heavier on the way home, said Simon. How could the governor send us away empty-handed, Judah asked, especially when he sees how much money we have brought. He jingled the coins in the purse he carried. It was true they had plenty of money. Jacob had become rich during the good years. But what use was money in Canaan now? They could not eat money. It was food they needed. The road to Egypt took the brothers past a familiar spot. It was the same pasture they had gone to every year, bringing sheep and goats to feed. Now the pasture was dry and bare as their own farmland. They could see the pit where they had thrown Joseph. They passed it without feeling guilty. Reuben stopped and wiped his head. Do you remember? He began. But Judah would not listen. That was long ago, he said in a rough voice. It's good What good is it to think of the past? Let's move on. And they marched along, each brother thinking of the boy and the coat of many colors. The brothers had many miles to go before they would reach Egypt. Sometimes they walked along dusty roads, sometimes they rode on the backs of their donkeys. The men had so little to eat, they were very hungry and very tired. After many days, the brothers noticed a change in the land around them. The fields were still dry and empty, but the cattle were fat. They looked as if they had been feeding on green grass. "Look," cried Reuben, and he pointed to some great buildings. "Those must be the barns where the food is stored. See how many there are." "There should be plenty of food to spare for us," Judah said, hurrying on. "Come, we are nearing the town." The young governor was busy at work inside the palace. Joseph was now in charge of giving out grain to the people of Egypt. He had also set some aside to sell to anyone from another country who came asking for food. A sudden sound from the courtyard made Joseph look up from his work. Voices. And one voice, deeper than the others, made Joseph think of his past. Surely this was the voice of his brother Judah. For a moment, Joseph felt afraid as he had been when he last heard that voice from deep inside the pit. Then joy at the thought of seeing his brothers overcame all his fears. Joseph rushed to the window. Yes, it was Judah and the rest of his brothers, all except Benjamin. Joseph stepped back out of sight. Could this be one of his dreams, or was it really happening? He longed to rush out into the courtyard, but he held back. He must wait. He must find out why they came to Egypt. "We wish to speak with the governor," Judah told the guard. "We have come to beg some grain." Beg, that was a strange word for Judah to use. Joseph remembered how he had begged to be let out of the pit and how Judah had turned away from him. Here was a chance to turn Judah away. But was that what he wanted to do? The guard came in. "Strangers have asked to see you, master," he said, bowing low. "They are begging for grain." "Send them in," Joseph said, trying to keep his voice steady. Then an idea came to him. "Wait, I must change my robe." Joseph did not want his brothers to see him dressed in a bright-colored robe. He did not want them to guess who he was. Not yet. "Bring me a plain robe," he ordered. "Bring my rings and gold chains." When the brothers came in, they saw the young governor standing in the shadows. Rings sparkled on his fingers and gold glittered on the chain around his neck. He wore a robe that was made of the finest cloth he had ever seen. The 10 brothers fell to their knees and bowed down before him. And as they did, Joseph remembered his dream when his brothers' stacks of grain had bowed to his stack. The dream was coming true. Joseph tried to control his feelings. He wanted to throw his arms around his brothers and forgive them. But he must know first if they were sorry for the wicked deed they had done. "You may stand," he said. "Let me know who you are. Where have you come from and what do you want?" The brothers stood before him. Not one guessed who Joseph really was. "We have come a long way, master, from the land of Canaan. Our fields have gone dry and our family is dying of hunger. We are here to beg some grain." "To beg?" said Joseph in a surprised voice. "To buy." Judah quickly pulled out some silver coins. "Look, master, we have plenty of money. We will pay any price you ask." "Wait, there are many things I must know first," said Joseph. "Tell me," said Joseph, "who are these men?" "They are my brothers who have come with me. We all work together on our father's farm." 10 brothers in the family?" Joseph asked. "Oh, no, master, 11, Joseph answered. "Our youngest brother, Benjamin, is at home with my father." Joseph turned away so the brothers could not see him smile. This is what he wanted to hear. His father and Benjamin were both alive and well. "So, you are 11 brothers," he said, turning back to them. "Is that all in the family?" Reuben did not speak. Reuben did speak. Judah did not. Reuben stepped forward and said, "There were 12, master." 12 brothers? Where is the missing one?" asked the governor of Egypt. All the brothers looked down at the floor. "He is no longer with us." They tried to change the subject. Master, how much grain can we have? Wait, I want to know a great deal more about your family before I decide. You said your brother is no longer with you? Strange family indeed, said Joseph. How do I know that your story is true? You might have come to spy on Egypt and see how much grain we have. Oh no, Judah said, our story is true. We have come to buy only enough grain to feed our family. Then why didn't you bring your youngest brother with you? Asked Joseph, still pretending he didn't believe them. Our father would not part with him. Our father is an old man, and now that he has lost one son, he is afraid to lose another. It was a long time ago, Judah said in a low voice. So long ago that you have forgotten your brother? Or do you remember his name? His name was Joseph. No, master, we have not forgotten our brother. Many times we wish. What do you wish? Please, master, will you let us buy some grain? We have come a long way and we are eager to go home again. Joseph nodded his head. Yes, you may buy as much grain as you want, on one condition. The brothers asked, We will do anything you ask. You must prove that your story is true. Go back to Canaan and bring Benjamin, your youngest brother, to me. The brothers turned pale. This was one thing they could not do. No, Reuben said, our father would never let the boy go. Then I must believe you are spies, Joseph said. Guards, take these spies, put them in prison. I'm going to have to get up and let the cat out. She's meowing too much. Come on, you go. Go. We have a very spoiled cat who wants to eat when she wants to eat. For 3 days, the brothers sat in the dark prison. They were all wondering the same thing. Were they being punished now for selling Joseph? What should we do? Father and Benjamin will soon starve if we don't come with food. We must bring Benjamin back, Judah said. On the 3rd day, Joseph came to see them. We will do as you asked, Judah said. Let us buy the grain, and we will bring our youngest brother to you. You see, we are telling the truth. But Joseph wanted to make sure they would keep their promise. I will set you free, but one of you must stay here as a hostage. You, Joseph said, pointing to Simon, you will stay here until your brothers come back. Many days later, the 9 brothers were nearing home. It had been a slow journey, for their sacks were heavy with grain. The donkeys could hardly carry these heavy loads. Let us stop and let the donkeys have something to eat, said Judah. But when he opened his sack, his face suddenly went pale. What is this? What has happened? One look at the sack, and the other brothers grew pale with fear. The money we paid for the grain. Look, it is lying on top of the sack. How did it get there? The governor will think we have stolen it. We are surely being punished, Reuben said. The governor has guessed our secret, and now he will say that we have robbed him. What shall we do? Let's hurry home. What else can we do? We cannot turn back. So they went on home feeling more happy. They did not guess that Joseph himself had put the money in the sack. If they were honest, thought Joseph, they would bring the money back. And so they went home. Jacob met them as they came near the house. Are the sacks full? Oh, yes, they are full. Well done, sons, he cried. Then he turned to Benjamin. We will go and meet them. As Jacob walked forward, suddenly fear filled his heart. He was thinking about that other time he had gone to meet his sons, only to find one was missing. See, Benjamin was saying, Reuben is waving to us, and there is Judah. Forgetting his weakness, he ran forward. Welcome home, welcome home. Jacob had begun to count. 6, 7, 8, 9. Where is the 10th? Oh no, he cried, one of them is missing. At first, Jacob could not understand what had happened. Where is Simon? What has happened? Over and over, the brothers told them the story of when they were in Egypt. The governor is a strange man. He is keeping Simon there until we return. He will give us anything we want, only we must bring Benjamin with us. No! Jacob shook his head. Never! Benjamin will not go. But after a while, the food was gone, and Benjamin begged his father to let him go. It's our only hope, Father, he said. There is nothing to eat here, but in Egypt there is plenty. Should the whole family starve because of me? Jacob told his sons to fill their sacks with silver and other presents for the governor. They must also take the money back they found in the sack of the grain. The brothers took what food they could find and ready to start. This time Jacob did not come to the door to watch his sons leave. Benjamin said goodbye to his father. Don't worry, Father, I will be back soon. And he turned and he ran after his brothers. They were nearing the palace gates, and Benjamin stared with wide eyes at the beautiful building and the gardens all around. They were stopped by a guard. What is your business here? We have come to speak with the governor. We want to buy some grain. Inside the palace, Joseph heard Judah's deep voice. His brothers had come back. Was Benjamin with them? But he was not quite yet to let his brothers know who he was. When the brothers came in, they saw the governor dressed in the same fine robe and wearing the same gold chain and sparkling rings. Joseph's heart beat fast when he saw Benjamin was with them. Without thinking, he took a step toward the boy and held his hands out as if he were going to hug him. Then he stopped. So, you have come back, he said to the brothers in a harsh voice. And this is your youngest brother? Yes, this is Benjamin. Benjamin looked into the governor's eyes. Those eyes reminded him of someone he had known, but who? The governor spoke to him in a gentle voice. Is your father well? Yes, master, Benjamin answered. He is well, but he is very lonely. He is afraid we will not return. Then you must not keep him waiting. Joseph was pleased that his brothers were honest enough to bring back the money, but he pretended to be angry. The money you stole, you mean, he said in a loud voice. We did not steal it, Master, Judah said. Look, here it is, and here are some gifts sent by our father. Joseph's eyes filled with tears. He turned away so the brothers would not see. Gifts from his father to the governor of Egypt? If only he could thank Joseph in person. Send for Simon, get him out of prison. And then he said to his brothers, you must be tired after your long journey. My servants will prepare a big meal for you. The brothers were happy that the governor finally believed them. Joseph told the servants to see that Benjamin got the best food, and he gave the boy his own silver cup. I've seen him before, Benjamin thought, but where? Was it a dream? Stop, robbers! The 10 brothers had just begun the trip when they heard those shouts from behind them. Men came running after them, men from the king's guard. What is this? Cried Judah. What do you mean? Why are you calling us robbers? Those sacks, the men said. Open them at once. They are full of stolen goods. No, Reuben said. They are full of grain and food which we have paid for. The guards pushed him aside. We shall see. They pointed at the sack on Benjamin's donkey. Open it, they ordered. Benjamin's fingers were shaking. He undid the rope and he saw what was inside. His whole body began to tremble. The silver cup. How did it get in there? We know, the guard said. You stole it. Open the other sacks. See what was taken. And each brother let out a cry when he saw what was inside his sack. In every sack was a pile of grain, the price they had paid for the grain. Come with us, robbers, ordered the guard. We will see what the governor has to say about this. Joseph was waiting for them inside the palace. It was all happening the way he planned. Mercy, master, they cried. Show us mercy. We have stolen nothing. Once again, Joseph thought of a dream he had once dreamed. 11 stars bowing down to him, his 11 brothers. And now that dream was coming true. Joseph spoke in a quiet voice. Pity? What pity did you show me when I begged for mercy that day you threw me in the pit? The brothers slowly raised their heads. Their eyes opened wide at what they saw. Before them, dressed in a coat of many colors, he stood. Joseph, Reuben said. Joseph, is that you? You are not dead? The brother was still kneeling at Joseph's feet. Forgive us. We are deeply ashamed of what we did. Do not be afraid, Joseph said, holding his hands out. Let us forget the past. You are my brothers, and I am happy you are with me again. Welcome, welcome. The story of Joseph's brothers soon spread through the palace. When the king heard this story, he sent for his young governor. "What a happy time for you, Joseph," Pharaoh said, "and a happy time for the people of Egypt. We have no fear of starving for the rest of the famine. You have done your job well." "I am proud to serve you, great king," Joseph said. "How may I repay you?" the Pharaoh asked. "There was one thing that would make me happier than I am now," said Joseph. "I would like to have my brothers and my father here with me forever. Then it will come to be. Prepare a place for them. Choose a home with plenty of land for sheep and cattle. Your family can start a new life here." What of Joseph? How did he feel about leaving his home and traveling to a strange land? Many other men would have been afraid of leaving everything behind to start a new life. But there was only one thought in Joseph's mind. His son was alive, and he would travel hundreds of times as far to meet him. Jacob seemed like a young man again, younger than his sons. "Hurry," he would say to them. "Joseph will be waiting for us." It was Jacob who led the way through the crowded market. It was he who first saw the Pharaoh's palace in the distance. It was he who called, "Look, there is someone waving to us, someone in a coat of many colors. It is Joseph, my son." Joseph was coming to meet his father. Now at last Joseph was there, no longer a ruler of a great land. He was a boy in a coat of many colors, held close in his father's arms. I hope you enjoyed the 2 chapters of the book.